next week, man.
I got to go to Bulleen.
When after this?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the game
Yeah.
will be done.
No, what's this 45-minute show according to Jules?
We're not doing a 45-minute show.
You'll get there at like half time.
We've genuinely never done a 45-minute show in our lives.
Like it's 5 days after the game. We've all forgotten.
I know when we did a 45-minute show.
I don't think we've ever done
But I
one.
won't say it.
Oh yeah,
We have. We've done multiple.
Yeah.
Early days. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, when we used to analyze a certain something, and
It
Jules
starts with
would turn into Sam McClure.
with player profiles.
When you're good at what you do, you're good at what you do, yeah?
This is this sucks. This isn't it's not the same as being in the studio, eh?
It's not us.
No. If you're joining us in the live chat, let us know how the audio quality is and whatnot. We're gonna try our best. Me and Dan got mics. Jules' mic's not working, but
Joe's doing the episode from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Genuine
He's in
addict.
Narnia.
I mean, a genuine addict.
I was going to say something else, but I just don't know if it'll be. I better not.
I reckon I know what you're thinking. Netherlands.
I reckon you've been there.
To where?
I've probably been there. Oh, you know what? You've been there as well. You've been in the Netherlands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I've never been to where you're talking about. in Amsterdam, Jules. I can say that hand on heart.
I'm not talking about those, bloke. I'm not talking about those.
I know what you're
about
talking
Amsterdam,
about.
but I'm not talking about the red light district. I'm talking about something else.
You're talking about a historical piece of.
Yeah, Frank House. Yeah, the Anne Frank House. Yeah. What's wrong with that? That's just history, is it not? Yes, I'm in a roof. I'm literally.
No, I feel like Hagrid's going to pop out behind and do half the show with you.
That's what they're saying here. Joe's in Harry Potter's attic. Yeah, very good.
Oh, I forgot we can look at the live chats. Oh, this is good. Send us some stuff.
We're a bit.
Jimmy R reckons I'm Bruce Lee.
Jimmy. Yeah, that's a good comment. Why?
I don't mind that. To be honest with you, I should just chuck this on now.
He had his primary school hoodie on before. Thought we were gonna keep that. Anyway, as you can tell, this is a very different vibe to what it's been this year. It's going to take us some time to get used to streaming out again. We'll do our best. Dan?
Lana Owens, if you got a funny story about a Bulldog Cafe, if you want to message me off air.
What? All right. How's this? Let's go into that a little bit later. Let's hit the intro.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's our moment. We finally, as a generation, we can hang our hat on a genuine moment.
Honestly, we are a force because of the intensity that we play at is just next level.
We want to be here. We want to impact finals. And it's one thing is obviously saying it, but we just lived it.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 126 of the Almost Blues Brothers podcast, part of the Bullabroad Media Network and proudly powered in 2024 by Image Online. You can see the logo there in the bottom right corner. We're not in the studios this week in Abbotsford. I am in London and I'm here for the next 4 weeks. So unfortunately, this is where we're at for the next 4 weeks. I do miss the Image Online studio already, boys. Jingles, live calling, everything that you need, podcast studio there. So if you need any of that sort of stuff for your business, hit up Image Online in Abbotsford. But I miss the studio. This sucks. It really does.
Oh, that's different, doesn't it?
Go on, Dan.
You don't. When you're in London, you're going to Portugal. You're in London. I guarantee you don't miss the studio.
Yeah, well, actually, I'll be doing this from Portugal in a couple of weeks. But
yeah, it's so bad. Oh, sorry, I missed the studio in Abbotsford. Sorry, guys. I'm in Lagos, Portugal.
Hand on heart.
Oh,
hand on heart. I genuinely do miss that studio at the moment. Yeah, no beers at all. Gavin Whelan and Frank Style. Yep, that's where we're at. Yeah, as you can see in the roof here. Boys, sorry about me. I haven't seen you since Thursday. I got straight on a plane basically after the game. What's been going on?
Jules?
Does anyone want to speak tonight other than me?
Just a bit of family. Obviously, Mother's Day. It was my mum's birthday as well during the week, as I caught up with her and the fam, and had dinner. It was good. Payzone?
We had the same. We had Mother's Day, but the highlight of my week has to be my golf lesson.
Here we go.
So
I thought you were going to say it was Joe leaving.
Yeah. Exactly.
could have gone there. I had now. Whoever loves golf, I just had my whole game transformed into a really, really good player. Now, what do you want to say, Joe?
Okay, go on.
Now, if anyone wants a gun coach, Andrew Pitt. Yes, Joe, is that his name?
Yes, Andrew Pitt. Yep, that's his name.
Absolute gun.
Yeah, that's all right. That's Dan's suggestion, is it, Dan? You
No,
found
it's
him?
not. I'll give you credit because I'm a believer in the guy's ability.
He's unbelievable. Out at Yarra Bend, in Fairfield there, Andrew Pitt. Big shout out. He's helped me with my golf game, and now apparently Dan is the greatest golfer in the world after one lesson. Is that right?
Not apparently. It was all about, he just told me I had to just adjust the grip. I had a weak grip, and he said I had to adjust the grip and because I wasn't getting enough mobility to move it.
I'm saying now you got a bit of a strong grip.
Real strong.
Strong grip on the shaft, Jules.
Wasn't able to utilize it correctly.
Yeah. Didn't know.
Until now. It took you 32 years.
Yep.
Yeah. No, good. It's funny, Jules, because every time we go to the driving range, I literally say to Dan, "You got a bit of a weak grip." He goes, "I don't even know what that means," and he just keeps hitting the balls. But as soon as Andrew Pitt says to him, "You got a weak grip," he'll listen. Is that right?
Yep. Because Andrew Pitt's the king.
Yeah.
No, they're actually really good. Whoever wants to go there, I'm going to promote them because it was actually an unreal experience. They do this obviously get you in, and they do this video feedback. Joe?
Hey, Jimmy R is on fire tonight, just by the way. In the chat.
He's a married man now. The grip is weakened.
Fire.
He's killing it.
Or has it gotten stronger?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it gives you you get the app, the video feedback through the app. It's good. It is very good.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm happy for you, Dan.
I can tell, Joe, you've given me nothing in this little bit, have you?
No, because I want to see it. That's all.
He said to me, he goes, "Go and tell your mate Joe now." He goes, "When you do this," he goes, "you'll see how much you've improved."
Yeah, bullshit. Did you actually mention that I gave the recommendation? Yeah, okay.
I did. But you had no idea who you were.
Oh, bullshit. That's rubbish.
I swear.
That's rubbish.
Oh, how's he gonna? Oh, all right, Joe. Sorry, no, I forgot. They've got a plaque of you at Yarra Bend that everyone knows you. Sorry, I forgot.
Well, yeah, because when you hit a hole in one there, that's actually what they do. They put you up on the leaderboard. It's nice. Like you are a bit of a local. You become a little bit of a local celebrity around the parts. Yeah. Oh,
I go, my mate Joe.
Yeah.
I go, my mate Joe referred me to come to you. He goes, "Oh, okay, let's get into the lesson."
Oh, yeah.
What happened there?
There's something not right with my computer tonight. Anyway, Frankie says, "Sax, hey boys, saw you walk past when I was playing on the truck." Oh, I know what he's talking about. Yes, at the game. Did you see outside the? I think it was outside gate 3. There was like a DJ truck, bloke playing a saxophone when he came in.
No.
Anyway, I saw Frankie. I know what he's talking about.
Can't remember.
Anyway, this is enough fucking rubbish. We've just spoken rubbish for genuine 10 minutes. Let's we've got a game to talk about. Without any further ado.
Let's get into it.
Match report. Final scores from the MCG on Thursday night. 58,000 in the crowd. Not bad considering it was a pretty dreary night. But final scores, 12-5 77. Blues, straight kicking. Very good. Defeat the Melbourne Demons by 1 point in the end. 11-10, 76. Goals for the Blues, Hewitt, Cripps, DeConning, Mackay, Martin, Pitnet, Walsh with 1 each, Kerno 2, O's with 3. Good to see. 10.
Oh,
on
Joe,
score
this
sheet.
is going to be a disaster.
I don't know whose speaker that's coming from.
It's you.
It's not me. It can't be coming from my speaker if I'm speaking. It's getting feedback from one of you. Anyway, nice to see 10 on the goal kicking list again. Injuries for the Blues. Interesting. Chera obviously went down to the rooms, I think, in the second or third quarter with that hammy. But post-game, we found out that Pitto underwent some finger surgery this week. But apparently going to be okay for the Swans game. So we'll talk about that when we get to the preview. But boys, where do you want to start with this game? Because there was so much good, but it almost unraveled in the most spectacular way in the end.
It could be my speakers. Do I have to have the speaker on road?
No, you leave the speakers on your laptop. Otherwise, you're
Then
not going to be able to hear it.
Default. Do we want to? I reckon we should discuss the opening quarter.
Let's do it.
Yeah, go quarter by quarter. It's actually a good game to do this.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the opening quarter. I think
We kicked the first 3 goals of the game.
3, 6.
6 goals.
Yeah.
6. Yeah.
For me, it was down to obviously clearance dominance. They're moving the ball in terms of our transition. I think defensively across the ground, we were able to nullify them as well. We didn't really give them too many looks. We had those repeat entries, and boys, we were able to put scoreboard pressure on.
Yeah, well, clinical.
Massive.
Gov being back was huge.
Yeah, you saw how much he shored up the back six alone. Really, him and Cam. Cam had a good game too, but that back six off the bat looked solid as a rock. I can't remember seeing him that solid throughout the course of the season so far. To be honest,
that quarter we looked completely balanced. I felt from our clearance work to our movement from D50, for example, and even entering forward 50 and the looks we were getting, I think we looked really balanced that quarter. Obviously with the way we were kicking, it looked like we're just going to continue to kick on. Melbourne didn't look like they had any answer, did they, for what we were doing?
No.
it
was an interesting game.
It never looked like we were going to lose a 50-50 ball for the first 2 quarters. Every time the ball was there to be won, we came out with it. It was brilliant. That first quarter was, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but I think that's the best quarter we've put together for a very, very long time. Just as balanced as it's ever been.
I can agree with that. I actually think Charlie playing high up the ground had a massive factor for that as well. I think you could see quite early. Remember we were talking about it, boys, that he was really involved early. And I think it was on purpose because we obviously with how quiet he was the week prior, I think we needed to see that from him. Hey.
Yeah, I think so. And he has 16 touches, boys, but the most the one that I really want to touch on in terms of like stats is he had 7 score involvements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Purely because he was able to get higher up the ground and obviously utilize his foot skills. And he still kicked a couple of goals. So in terms of Charlie, it was probably, in terms of his score involvement, it was one of his better games for the season. Still didn't lay a tackle though. But in saying that, if he was able to have that many score involvements and obviously have input that way, that's what you want to see.
Yeah, he cops it pretty unfairly, Charlie. Hey,
He's gone, Jules.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Anyway, irrespective of that, I want to talk about quickly.
I think I'm gonna ditch this mic because it's just cutting it out.
Yeah, Joe, you can't hear anything, mate. Jules, let's talk about something else. Do you remember that stat that when I talk about balance, do you remember that stat that Joe, or I think you gave me where it was like in the first quarter we kicked 2 or 3 goals from stoppage and then 2 or 3 goals, 3 goals from turnover. What was that stat, Joe?
I think
you just showed our balance in that quarter in particular.
in the first quarter, the first 4 goals, we kicked 2 from stoppage, 2 from turnover, and the scoring sources, one was from D50, one was
there we
from
go.
stoppage, one was from stoppage in the middle of the ground, one was from a forward 50 stoppage and a forward 50 turnover. So it was as balanced a way of attacking the game as we've seen all season, which is what we've been crying out for, really.
Yeah. No,
I
definitely.
still think even in the second quarter, we were able to, I guess, do what we did in the first quarter in terms of our effort. I just felt like as if Melbourne sort of started to get their game going a little bit more. And it sort of was like an arm wrestle from then on, even in the third quarter as well.
Did you feel our pressure was still high though?
Yeah, I just think Melbourne went another level.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it sort of was just that arm wrestle.
Yeah.
Even in the third, I thought it was much the similar. It was the last that was the that was really really a letdown.
Well, it was
Yeah.
evident to see. I felt a big thing for me that stood out in that last quarter was the way we exited D50. I thought was quite poor, and that was putting us under pressure because I think we're just turning the ball over way too easy.
So I've actually got the pressure rating quarter by quarter, which is what we
Right.
like to look at each week. We've done this pretty much every week now. So first quarter, so this is Carlton versus against Melbourne. So the first number I say is ours. So first quarter, 200 to 186. Second, 163 to 189. Third quarter, 209 to 217. And the fourth quarter, it was 201 to 221. So for 3 quarters, we were above 200 on the pressure rating, including the last. But Melbourne's average pressure for the game was 202 versus 194. So and with this Carlton Melbourne matchup, as we've seen recently, we know that it's just going to be that pressure contest 4 quarters, the whole game. It's what we got really. But Melbourne's pressure in the last quarter, in particular, was through the roof. They just had us on the back foot for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, for me it was. I mean, even I understand our pressure. Sorry, I understand our pressure was down in the second, but I feel like as if even though their pressure was so high, in terms of the way we're actually moving the ball, when we did have it, it was still at a reasonable level, and we'll still be able to hit targets and obviously hit the scoreboard. Where in the last quarter, obviously our pressure was still up, but with ball in hand, like Paysan said, it was very poor in terms of the way we were trying to move the ball, especially out of D50.
Well, the reason why I mentioned that is because I remember seeing that they'd had 18 inside 50s to our 5 for that quarter. So that's massive.
Yeah, we couldn't get the ball out. We just couldn't
No, we
get it out.
couldn't.
And
But
we couldn't win it at the source. We couldn't win it at the source. It all started to come apart.
I don't mean to be too nitpicky with players, but we're actually quite fortunate that we did have Gov and Weeders in that back 6 that we did and I thought Chincotta was brilliant as well. I thought he was absolutely unbelievable. But that back 6 held up unbelievably throughout the whole game. Their structure and actually having Gov and Kemp allowed Weeders to play his game instead of have to worry about everyone else, which he'd been doing the past couple of weeks. And when Melbourne in a quarter about 18 inside 50s, you'd think they'd win the game, wouldn't they? Like with that many entries. True?
Yeah.
I mean what did they have in the last 8 minutes? They would have kicked at least 5 goals, I reckon, close to it, or at least maybe not the last 8 minutes, but actually, you know what? Probably the last 8 minutes.
Yeah.
No, it was. It was the last 8 to 10 minutes. That's when they did most of their damage. The rain might have helped, I guess. I don't know. I thought it was going to help us, if anything, because it started coming down when we had still like a 3-goal lead, and I thought, beautiful. It's going to be tough to score here, but they just didn't miss in that last 8 minutes. Every time they went forward, they looked ridiculously dangerous, and I don't know. I feel like we're a little bit shell shocked with the way that they sort of turned it on so quickly. And
if I remember correctly, we scored the first goal for that quarter. I'm pretty sure.
Kicked the first goal. We actually kicked the first goal in every single quarter.
Yeah.
In the game.
But in that fourth, we kicked the first, and I really thought, if I look back at it, that's where we should have put foot on throat and just buried it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, in terms of burying, like it's interesting because we're still 30-something points up at that stage. So I just feel like as if the game, we should have had more control in the game. Because it was still an arm wrestle in terms of the way the game was actually being played, we weren't able to get it on our terms. I reckon we should have had more control in the game in terms of when we did get the ball, in terms of the way we actually moved it. And I felt like as if because it was in a lot of congestion, the Melbourne were able to start winning contested ball, start winning a bit more clearances. They obviously got a little bit more dominant. And when you got a player like Rachaka, what did he end up with? He ended up with 5. I know he kicked a few in the third, but obviously he was able to kick, 1 or 2 late as well, to sort of start getting them going. So, I mean, there's quite a few things as well. Like, are we able to hold on to games? Because, against Adelaide, we dropped it. We're 18 points up with less than 5 minutes.
Yep.
Was it not?
Yeah, we were.
So that was another game, and in recent period, obviously the Collingwood game was a little bit different because it was just a close game throughout. Geelong game was actually the flip. We actually tried to come, get close to them, which we did in the end, and I would have kicked late. But boys, it might be a good time to get into calcs, Joe, I reckon.
Yeah. All right. Let's do this.
So Gavin Whelan just mentioned it in the comments. He mentioned we were always going to run out of gas playing 3 games in 12 days, and he said that we managed it pretty well considering. We're the only team to win the 3rd game in the 12 days. So Saints did it. I actually don't have their game because I didn't want to. I mean, I found out late, but I didn't want to add them in because I felt like as if they're probably not going to be in the 8, to be honest with you. And I don't feel like as if they're contenders. So I wanted to compare us against contenders. So we've got Melbourne. They played Port Adelaide, and then Brisbane. They won Port and won against the Crows, lost against Brisbane in the 3rd game. Just keeping in mind, too, the Port, Adelaide and Adelaide game, they'll both played in Adelaide. So in terms of the 2nd game that they did play, they were able to actually rest in Adelaide because that was the gather round. Pies, another team. They lost the first 3 games of the season. That was their 12 days. They played GWS, Sydney, and Saints. Obviously, GWS, arguably, contenders. Sydney, they're probably the benchmark of the competition currently. And then they lost against Saints as well by 20-something points. Now, our 3 games in 12 days. Cats, Pies, Melbourne. Cats by a couple of goals. Pies by a kick. And then Melbourne. And obviously, we won that game and we faded late. So arguably, it's the last 3, like Gavin said, the last 3 premiers we played in 12 days. If you would compare those 12 days, 3 games, compared to any other team in the comp, but especially the last, between Melbourne, Pies, and Saints, we've had the most difficult draw. And even if you have a look at the draw overall, I think we've played out of the 9 games that we have played, 6 of the top 8 from last year.
Yeah.
So it's been a very, very challenging draw for us starting the year off. And to be 6-3, I think we've done a very reasonable job, boys.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's so you've got all of that. And the one thing we still haven't mentioned in all of that is we've had the longest injury list in the AFL during that time as well that we've had to contend with. So not only are we coming up against genuine contenders for the flag this year, genuine contenders from last year's crop, and we've had the longest injury list, longer than my arm, throughout that period. To come out of it 6-3 after 9 weeks, I reckon pre-season when I looked at the fixture, I was thinking sort of 6-3 would be about where we need to be able to launch in the back half of the year. So we've still got a couple of tough games coming up. Obviously Sydney this week, but to get the win, I know, and we'll talk about the fade out a little bit more. But to get the win on Thursday in the context of the season, considering who the opposition was and taking the 4 points off Melbourne, it's massive. That game and the GWS game, when it comes to top 4 calculations later in the year, that's going to do us wonders. I can guarantee it's going to do us wonders. Obviously, percentage right now isn't in the spot that we want it to be in. I think that'll come as we start to play the likes of a West Coast, North Melbourne, Hawthorn, those types, which we don't actually play to the back half of the year. But we're in a good spot. We just are. We're in the best spot that we probably could have asked for, considering. So, Dan, on the fade out. So before we get to the fade out, let's really do it justice in terms of how we set up the game. Because if we didn't set up the game the way that we did early on, that fatigue that set in late, maybe due to the 12-day break, maybe due to the 12-day 3-game period, Jules. If that fatigue had a set in and we weren't 6-7 goals up, we're losing that game by 3 or 4 goals.
Yeah, we are, of course. But my question to you both is, are you concerned about these lapses that we do have?
I'll be more concerned if we're having them later half of the year. So, yeah, I still feel like as if there's a lot of teething issues. I don't think we need to have all the answers now, nor should we. I feel like as if we're on the right track, and I reckon post the bye after that, I think we've got, 3-4 games before the bye? Correct, Joe? Something like that?
We've got Sydney, Gold Coast, Port, and Essendon, 4 games.
Yeah, so 4 games before the bye. If we could be, 3-1 out of the next 4, which is very possible, I feel, going into the bye, and then getting a few players back, obviously, over the course of that journey and that time, leading to the back half of the year when we've got opponents where we probably should batter. I think it's going to hold us in very good stead, and that's the time when we actually need to make sure that we have all these teething issues all ironed out.
Resolved, yeah.
Including,
more importantly, player selection.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And that's going to
Player
help
availability.
Issues. Yeah. Like you saw with the likes of having a Wiedering and Gov. Like, for example, if we didn't have Gov there in the last quarter, we lose that game.
Yeah.
Because Wiedering is unable to do what he's able to do. So even the likes of like an Elijah Holland, and I was watching the game today and a bit of footage as well, and what he is able to do to allow Cripps to stay forward of the ball, to be able to score and have some score involvements, because he's rolling up to the midfield to obviously support in that area. Just little things like that. There's certain players in our team that allow other players to do to get their work done.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned with Wiedering and Gov, and even if you have a look at now in terms of Pitto and TDK, in terms of how they're operating, Pitto is doing the mainly heavy lifting inside the centre square and stoppage, and then TD goes in there for a bit of a chop out, but then TDK is able to go forward and hit the scoreboard and then help around the ground. So yeah, I just think the combination and partnerships across the board and across the ground is key, and we've getting those players back. And even saw Martin in the first quarter as well. What was he able to do?
You know what? It's a good name to bring up, because he had minimal impact on the scoreboard, but the first quarter you saw what he did for our forward line. Now, for me, it's going to take it'll take him some time to really find his feet and find that form that we saw in the back half of last year. He's had a bit of a 9-week break now coming into the season, but once he hits his straps, what he's going to do for our forward line, you already saw in glimpses on Thursday night.
So, talking about the forward line, the tackles inside 50 will down again. I think it was 9 to their 15 or so. And tackles in general for the game, I think will down 20 from them. It's an area now that we're lacking quite a lot, when I think you can well and truly say at the start, well, that's what our brand's built on, isn't it? That pressure.
Yeah, I mean,
especially in the forward half of the ground. So I think that's an element that helps us, though. That we talk about trying to get the game back on our terms, and that type of pressure, especially from the forward half, allows us to do that.
The differential was 20 or whatever it was. I think it was 68 to 88.
It was 18
or 18, yeah. But to lay tackles in the high 80s their pressure rating was enormous. Like it's not like we lost the tackle count by 20 and we only laid 45 tackles. Do you know what I mean? Like our tackle count was still almost up there in the 70s, which is above the AFL average for the year. The forward 50 tackles down, I agree. I think we're definitely
the
missing.
forward 50s
We're definitely
tackles
missing.
though, Joe.
Go.
You have to take in consideration the amount of inside 50s that we actually had. So we had 41 inside 50s to their 61. So
Yeah.
obviously, if they have the ball inside forward 50 for like more times, they're going to have more tackles inside forward 50. It's just based off the numbers. So in terms of like proportionally, so what do we have? 41, they had 61. And in terms of tackles, inside forward 50, they probably had, if you do look at it proportionally, they probably had like a +5 tackles inside forward 50. So maybe a quarter more.
But for me,
which is still not good enough, I think.
No, but for me, we're talking about personnel before. That's Fogarty.
Like, we know that.
You can see how much we're missing him inside forward 50 now. Fogarty, Motlop, once those two are back, I think that forward 50, what we saw in terms of the impact from McGovern and Kemp, for instance, on the back line, I think we're going to see the same impact now on the forward 50 when we get the likes of a Fogarty and Motlop back in the next couple of weeks.
I'm sorry to cut you off. The last quarter for me, I still don't think you can excuse that.
No, so obviously
that's why I've been a little bit quieter, because I don't think that you can excuse what happened in that last quarter.
So we've spoken about how we set up the game, obviously, and like I said, we came out of the blocks firing. We had 3 quarters where it was flawless, really, when you think about it. The way that we played, the balance and all of that, being able to get that 6-goal buffer to start, keeping them to 0 for a quarter and a half, unbelievable. You're right. There's cause for concern when you can fade out so late and genuinely almost bottle it. Like there was a point in that last 2 minutes where I thought, we're not winning this game. It's just
that undoes
too much momentum.
You talk about 3 quarters of footy that was unreal. Your last quarter like that undoes it. What kind of conversations are we having if we lost? Like I know obviously that we're wrapped that in the end of the day we got the 4 points and we're done with it. But I just don't think you can sort of bypass how big that lapse was and how costly that could be.
Of course. And if it had gone the other way, we're talking about 1 kick or even a behind where we dropped 2 points, which could have been crucial. This is a very, very different conversation. There's no positivity at all.
In a performance like that, where we started the way we started, you feel as though with where we want to go, it needed to be a drumming. And I know Melbourne are a good side, but the way we dismantled them in that first quarter, and even like as Jules said, 20, 30 points up roughly by the start of that fourth, there shouldn't have been nowhere near it, really. Like, what? So are we saying that our inability? Because if you're saying then that our tackling pressure was still at a decent standard, you're saying that it's down to our inability to exit D50 and our skills that let them in.
Well,
for me, it was.
Yeah, I agree, but there has to be more than that.
I think it's a combination of the 12-day 3-game stretch.
Like I felt like when I was there. Sorry to cut you off, Joe, but personally, I felt like everyone just stopped. I didn't feel like the pressure was that high, if I'm honest with you.
I mean, it looked that way. It looked like the pressure dropped off across the ground. The numbers tell a different story, but you could see that we went into our shells in that last 8 minutes. And the Dees, to their credit, they threw everything at it. They really did. The turning point for me, the one where I was like, all right, we're in trouble here because they look desperate to try and get a result here, was the Viney tap back off the goal line. That for me was where I went, fuck me. We had 5 players running back with him, and he's the only one that was able to get to the ball that was just pure desperation. And at that point, I went, if we don't switch on here for the next 2-3 minutes, they're going to put a couple on us, and they did. We were lucky, very, very lucky with the Brodie Kemp dangerous tackle call, I thought. I'll call a spade a spade. I don't think it was a dangerous tackle at all. That should have been a goal for the Dees. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck to see those ones out. So it went our way a little bit in certain moments, but I don't know. It's the biggest thing that confused me is that we've won games based on playing 1 quarter this year and putting teams away. but this is the first game when we actually put like 3 quarters of good football together and still almost lost the game. So I just the separation between our absolute best, which we saw in the first half, and then our ability to fade out as poorly as what we did, it just blows my mind that we've still got that sort of variance in our game at this point. And I don't know what it is. Is it purely down to the fatigue in that third game across that 12 days? Is it down to, we've still got some crucial plays on the injury list to come in? I don't know what it is. I really don't. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like as if we're in a pretty good position to argue about, or not argue, but to discuss, our fade out, considering we're 6-3. And played some reasonable teams. But like I can also completely understand how the fade out isn't what should happen. But it did. I also think though, we've struggled, and we've probably struggled the last for a very long time, but particularly the last few years, once we actually started, elevating ourselves amongst, the competition, we struggle to put teams away.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
keep them arm's length, to be honest with you.
So when do we become that team?
They're a West Coast, unless they're a West Coast or North Melbourne and the like. But if there's anyone that's, we're up by 5 goals, we genuinely struggle to try and keep them at arm's length. Or, and I actually thought with Melbourne, we were keeping it at arm's length, especially for the second and third. It was, I said, it was just the last 8 to 10 minutes. They put on a couple, and then we kicked back, and then it was just literally the last 8-10 minutes.
Yeah. I just hope that with the availability of some key personnel, the fact that it's not going to be 3 games in 12 days again for us, I just hope those 2 factors have played into it a lot more than probably what we're giving it credit for. But, like you said, Jules, if we're doing this in the back half of the year, I'm going to be concerned because it's not good enough. It's not good enough for a team that's got flag aspirations. It's great to get the 4 points. We're all happy with it. But if you've got aspirations to win flags, you need to be concerned and question that fade out. You can't just rest on your laurels and go, well, we've got the 4 points to move on. It's great to be able to learn. This is the difference. It's great to be able to learn from this stuff and look at it in the way that we are when we're winning rather than losing tight games, right? So that's the luxury that we've got now. Still doesn't mean that we can't question it. I saw a lot of, it pissed me off a little bit, if I'm being honest. I saw a lot of discourse online after the game going, how can you be negative after a win? We can't become that fan base. We're spoiled, this and that. It's not that at all. Like you've still got it in a game like that where we had complete control, you have to question why we faded out. You just have to. It's not to say that we're unhappy with the result. You're never going to be unhappy with a win. But fuck me, if you're not concerned by what you saw, then you're just being naive at the end of the day, for me.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, like, it's very obvious that the coaching staff and Voss is going to be looking at that last 10 minutes and going through it with a fine. It's paramount that they will, and I'm sure they probably already have, to be honest with you. I know they had a training session yesterday, but for sure over the course of the week, and even for the next few weeks, or even over the course of the year, for the rest of the season, they're going to be going through that footage to see what they could have done better to improve. Obviously, look at the highlights as well over the course of the game, because what they will do is they will look at the first quarter, look at the way we were able to execute. We want more of this. The last quarter, they'll have a look. This wasn't up to standard. We need to make sure we get back to the first quarter, or if this happens again, this is what we need to do. They're going to be looking through it, I'm telling you, in like fine detail to make sure that doesn't happen again. It's just whether they're going to be able to execute next time, and time will tell.
Dan?
Yeah, like at the end of the day, I'm a big believer that it comes down to personnel, and I think with certain personnel coming in as well, we're going to be a lot more assured in certain areas, and we'll get back to playing. I don't think a 4-quarter. I don't think it's realistic to say that we can play a 4-quarter perfectly balanced game. I just don't think that's realistic. But I feel like that will allow us to play, to be a lot more clinical in the end. I can see a lot of people obviously in the chat saying that, well, Melbourne are a really good team, but why? I don't know. My viewpoint's a bit different with regards to that last quarter. Like, I understand they're a good team. I understand Petraga had the game of his life, but why couldn't we be that team that wins by 30 points
Yeah,
and just season
that's-
off? Why does it need to be that in sport the the team's always going to come back and win or come back and have their momentum swings and all that? Why can't we just put them away by 30? We had them for three and a bit quarters.
I agree. You have to have that aspiration if you want to achieve the ultimate success, unfortunately. So hopefully that comes. Hopefully we build, because it's definitely concerning. I've just got a couple of players I want to, before we get into the votes, a couple of players to call out. So we spoke about Charlie earlier, and before my mic cut out, I was just going to say he cops it pretty unfairly, I would say. Like, we hold pretty high expectations of Charlie, and rightfully so. He's at his best. He's arguably probably the best player in the comp. But I don't think he had a bad game on Thursday at all. Even for that first half, where he was probably, there were a few fans around us that were giving it to him. I know he's not laying tackles like we'd like him to, but the way his ability to take Stephen May out of the space deep early on, if you watched his work off the ball, he was playing a pretty important role to open up forward 50 space for us, for the likes of Harry to get on the end of him and Jack Martin early on. So I think we questioned his standards. I think it was last week, not his standards, but we questioned how much more he could give. I saw enough from Charlie on Thursday against a pretty top-notch defender, one of the best one-on-one defenders in the comp. And Stephen May had very, very little impact in the air, I thought. So I think he needs a little bit more credit. The 7 score involvements, Jules, obviously, game-high contested marks, and he ended up kicking 2 goals, 1. Probably should have been 3 goals again. He finds his way on the scoreboard every week. He finds a way to get his teammates involved. Yes, he's looking a little bit shaky. There was that shank in the second quarter off the side of his boot. It's very, very unlike him, but I think he's still pretty much there. The other one inside the forward 50, Matt Owies is undroppable at the moment. You cannot drop him. He's kicked 14 goals for the year. 14 goals for the year, 6 goals in the last 2 weeks. He's that player inside 50. He's almost becoming Mr. Reliable in terms of when he's got the ball, he's going to make the most of his opportunities and chances. And there's not too many others outside of Harry and Charlie inside forward 50 that can probably say that at the moment, boys.
Yep, agree. I'm a big fan of Owies. I think at the end of the day, he does his job in more ways than one. But I think if you're kicking goals, and as you said, Joe, with that stat there, he's not the guy that makes way. I tell you that much for when Motts and Fogg come in. I think Motts is close, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he had 1 to 2 weeks, so he might be a test this week. I haven't heard anything around him being a test just yet. Fogarty's still 2 to 3, so he'll definitely miss this week. Might be back for the game after.
Another thing with Owies, he laid 4 tackles, boys. So obviously he was able to hit the scoreboard, but he was actually putting on pressure as well, which is great to see.
It's his heart. It's his heart when he kicks a goal. Like, that's the stuff. That's what gets you going, even as a supporter. Hey.
Yeah, I mean, you see, so he had to do it tough. Obviously, he didn't come from a football background, Category B rookie. He's done it tough to make a career out of what he's been able to do. Cottrell, he's another one. Took some time. Chincotta, we saw, took his time as a mature age recruit last year. Now he's obviously, the last 2 weeks he's been vital in a lockdown role. You need those players. You just do. It's so important in a side to have players that have had to battle to get their spot, because once they're there, they know how precious it is to hold that spot. And always every week, if you want to compare him to Durden, I'm not saying Durden doesn't work hard or that he's privileged, but they're night and day at the moment in terms of impact during the game. I didn't see Corey Durden once again against Melbourne. I'm not trying to scapegoat him, but he's not at the level that Matt Owies is operating at the moment. And when you've got the likes of Martin and not Martin, you've got the likes of Motlop and Fogarty to come back in, you've got to perform. You just have to. And Matt Owies right now, he's undroppable. The other one, the third one, before we get into the votes for me, Blake Acres is fucking unbelievable, boys, around the ground. No, he really is. He's ridiculous. His ability to get from contest to contest and just be there when you need him. Last line of defense, goalkeeper twice again. Like, He's a joke. He has to be the recruit of the decade.
And you can see some leadership in him. In the last quarter, I was watching him, and he was actually ordering players as to where they needed to be. So he's got that leadership quality about him. I think you're missing one more player. I think we need to talk about Chincotta, really.
Well, he's all right. Well, all right. I'll lead it off because he's in my votes. So I gave him one, and I'm using my one. I think I've decided I'm going to use my one vote each week now to give it to like a bit of an unsung hero, because it's very easy to give it to.
So nice of you, Joe.
Well, it's very easy to give it to the superstars, which we do every week, but I think he deserved a vote. Cozzy Pickett had no impact, and in the last 2-3 games we played against Melbourne, Cozzy has absolutely done our ass in. He just has. So he did it against Bobby Hill last week. Bobby Hill had no impact. Cozzy Pickett this week. Cozzy had fuck all impact really for the majority of the game. Alex Chincotta, he's had to work his way into the side this year, and all of a sudden he's looking like an integral part of that back six, boys.
Yeah, but it's his aggression. He plays with a lot of aggression, and I like it.
Yeah, he's a good body. Like, he's got a good body type to be that lockdown on the premier small forwards of the game.
Yep.
Yeah,
You can go through.
I'll go to the Cripps one.
Yeah, well, you can talk about Weeders, Cripps, and Walsh.
Yeah, let it rip
between the two of you.
Yeah, I'll go. I'll just go Cripps. Kazan. So with Cripps, he's especially his first half, it was actually ridiculous between him and Walsh. I think Walsh is probably on another level, but it was genuinely ridiculous what he was doing as well. But just to let you know, boys, Cripps is having his highest rated season this year so far.
Yep.
Believe it.
Yeah. And obviously won the Brownlow a couple of years ago. So he is on another level at the moment.
I've got another
I don't even think I need to go through the data, like the stats.
Well, I've got a stat.
I think that's all I need to say.
I've got a stat for you with Cripps that I read today. So across the season, Cripps is number 4 for every player in player in the comp. He's the 4th. He's got the 4th most contested possessions in the forward half of the ground.
Really?
So there's only 3 players ahead of him. That's Bont, Petrarca, Heaney. He's number 4. And it's the first time in his career that he's been that high in the rankings for contested possession in the forward half. And it's a credit to what we've been able to do in this step of his evolution in his career to make sure that as he's getting older, obviously his body's going to become a little bit more not fragile, but he's going to become limited in what he's able to do in and under.
But we haven't seen him move this good. We haven't
to
seen
be
him
able to have the
good.
impact in the forward half that he's having is incredible. So as long as we can keep that up, I think he's going to have he's on track for another Brownlow, boys. There's no other way to say it. He really is. Which is, it puts him up there as one of the greatest of all time for us if he wins 2. It just does.
Oh, it has to. Yeah.
Premiership.
And
Yeah,
his
well,
counter.
That makes him number 1. That makes him number 1.
Multiple premierships.
If he honestly, just while we're on him, I'll ask you, Dan. I've been thinking about this, right? If he wins another Brownlow, if he wins another BNF to make it 5, I'm pretty sure for the club, and he captains us to number 17, is he the greatest Carlton player of all time? Like, that has to be given genuine thought at that point.
Yeah,
surely.
you'd be giving it thought. There's some big names there, though, Joe.
I understand that, but
there's some massive names.
I understand, but you've got to give it thought. Surely, Jules.
Surely you put him in the Hall of Fame before he even retires.
Never been done.
No, if he wins another Brownlow, another
it's never ever happened.
Another best and fairest to make it 5, wins a couple of flags at the minimum.
He's going to be up there. He's going to be up there clearly, but Joe, you got massive names.
All right. Hey, we'll see when he retires. When he retires, we'll revisit this conversation and we'll talk about it, because I genuinely think he could make a very big surge. Dan, talk about Walshy, because he was unbelievable again.
Well, his counterpart, you mentioned Cripps for the Brownlow. I reckon Walsh, if he keeps going like this, will be 1 and 2. I'll tell you that much. And I don't know who will win it, but when he kicked that goal, I thought you knew it was going to be Walsh's day. I think he's having his way with it. The bloke is genuinely unbelievable. Like with what he's doing, I think he had 34 touches, a goal. Yeah, bloke was everywhere. We know what Walsh brings. He's back to his best. Well, I want to talk about Weeders because for me, and we spoke about it a little bit earlier, but for me, I gave him the 1 purely because, and I think Gavin Kemp, as I mentioned earlier, helped him with Weeders just being a showcase what he does best. And he was unreal. So I had to give him the 1. And yeah, boys, that's a wrap.
That's the votes for
Just
this week.
another thing with Walsh. Walsh had 11 tackles.
Yeah. No, he said
11
he's genuinely done. That's the second time he's done that, double-digit tackles. He's setting the tone for that midfield pressure at the moment, especially when the chips are down. So he's coming off that back again. You can say what you want. Nick Dacos kicked the winner against us last week, but I'm still taking Walsh every single day of the week, boys. Votes leaderboard for 2024. Cripper out in front on 47. Harry 17 behind on 30. Walshy already in the top 3 on 24 after 3 or 4 games. Weeders.
It's a joke.
Round out top 5. Walsh is to be able to actually get into the top 3 after 4 games.
It's a joke.
That's ridiculous. All right. Livy, she's back this week. Let's hear from her now.
Hey everybody, it's Livy with Livy's Last Words, and this is what I thought about the game. Well, it definitely was stressful. I mean, at the start of the game, we played absolutely amazing. I was so impressed. You know, I've got to say, if we didn't have that first and second quarter, I don't know, we probably wouldn't have won that game. Yeah, we definitely were playing very well. You know, every quarter we're getting just quick and easy goals, and I was just very impressed. But I mean, to let Melbourne Demons catch up to us, it's just not good enough. You know, we've got to be better for that. You know, I just don't think we're ready. But you know, we played amazingly good at the start. You know, like our defense was at the start was amazing. The whole game we just put on the pressure. You know, Melbourne Demons could not get a freaking mark until the end. Like, they would not get a mark. I was just like, come on, boys. Like, finally we've got some good defence happening. But I reckon all the boys played good. Definitely loved the way Walshy played the most. He had an amazing goal, which was so good to watch. Charlie was all right. You know, he still got 2 goals, but he had a quite quiet game. He had an amazingly good mark. But I've got to say that his last couple of games has not been the best I think he could play. But Mackay, yep, he was a bit quiet, but he still got a goal, which was really good. I know I'm actually really liking Tom De Koning in the forward line. He's actually getting some really amazing marks. Akers, yeah, he's been doing all right. He's been like the goalkeeper for us pretty much. But Weeders, thank God we have Weeders. He just plays absolutely amazing every single game. So proud of him. But anyways, overall, I thought the game was good. Definitely at the start was amazingly impressive. But at the end, to let the Melbourne Demons catch up was just not good enough. It was overall just a very stressful game. But anyways, next week, we're versing the Sydney Swans. I think that's going to be a pretty tough game, but hopefully we can get the job done and play like we did at the start of the game. But hopefully we win that game. But anyways, this is what I thought about the game. Go the Blues!
Always good to see Livy happy. Before we get into the preview, there's 130 odd of you watching live. If you haven't already, hit that like on the video, subscribe to Blue Abroad if you haven't, and if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, hit that 5 stars and hit that follow button. It helps us immensely if you haven't done that already. Boys, we have another test. this week, as we have for
Huge.
the last 6 weeks. Just the biggest test in football right now. Sydney at the SCG. They've lost one game for the year, and it was against Richmond, of all clubs, at the MCG. So basically, other than a little blip, they are dominating the competition at 150. I think they got a percentage of 150 as well. So it's not like they're just getting over the line. They are slapping teams, boys. So we're up against it this Friday. But what a test! What a time! This is what it's all about.
For me, I think about this Sydney team, and I just think skillful. Their ball movement is just as clean as it gets, and they're clinical. They punish. So, from our perspective, we've got to be on, and we've got to be on for 4 quarters. Otherwise, they are a team that will punish you.
4 quarters.
Yeah, what do you mean?
No, I'm just saying you thought it was impossible to do 4 quarters.
Enough.
No, you know what?
To be honest, I agree with you.
That's fair from Jules. That's not bad. He actually got you
I
there.
contradicted myself.
He did get
Right,
you.
you said it like 5 minutes ago, Faison.
He did get you.
Like, don't say it. Like, you could have said it last ep, and then But anyway, no, I think Swans are the benchmark of the competition at the moment. I think they have to be. And if we don't bring the heat for 4 quarters, it's going to be a tough ask, because especially up there at the SSG, the way they move the ball up there, and obviously understanding the grounds up there, it's going to be difficult. But I think we've actually got a very good chance in winning and beating Sydney, to be honest with you. I just think we have enough firepower to be able to do it, as long as we're able to battle with their midfield. I know it's deep. I think we just got to keep the ball on the inside as much as possible and not allow it to get on the outside, so then they can actually move like Collingwood did against us, to be honest with you. So if we've learnt our lesson against the Pies in terms of the way they're able to get Chris Zendakos on the ball on the outside and sort of move us around, it's this game against Sydney.
It's a fair call. I think the SCG helps us being a little bit smaller, to be able to keep the game in tight and keep it contested for a lot longer. I just think, I don't know, the last few years, their side hasn't really changed much. Our side hasn't really evolved a hell of a lot in terms of personnel. I just think we've always matched up well against them. Like, Dan, we went up to the SCG last year for the game, and we were arguably their worst in that period, and we still almost got the job done against them. And then obviously put them away early in the elimination final, and then held on to win by a goal. But I just feel like Sydney's a team that, for whatever reason, as good as they are, we're never really out of it against them. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, you mentioned obviously that last time we were there at the game, it was obviously we weren't clinical at that. Remember, Joe, at the SCG? So,
yep.
Scoreboard pressure, massive. Our pressure, massive. For me, they're players like your Warners, your Gouldens, your Heaney's. They're the guys to watch out for.
Well, Heaney's the one for me at the moment, and actually Chad Warner.
To be honest, Warner's just as dangerous. Really,
Warner has looked ridiculous the last couple of weeks. I've watched him, and I've watched Sydney the last 2 weeks in particular. When the ball's in his hands, it looks like he could pick open a game at any point. Isaac Heaney, obviously, earlier in the season was putting together an absolute blinder, but we need answers for those two for me. If we can shut them out of the game, it'll go a long way to getting a result.
They're their forward line's very dynamic as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a Water though, he's hitting the scoreboard as well, especially late. The one me inside forward 50 is Hayward, boys. He's hitting the scoreboard for a laugh.
Yep, he is.
At the moment, yeah.
He kicked another 4 on the weekend, I think. And he's going to want to put in a nice little performance for us too, I can tell you, because he's got a nice contract on the table that he's going to go give me some more. I want to see some more sheets. So yeah, he'll be putting his best foot forward, no doubt. I think we've got an answer for him now with Chincotta. To be honest, if Chincotta doesn't go to Papley, it'll be McGovern on Hayward. I'd suspect. But we need to give strong consideration to their talls. Amadi, McLean, and Logan McDonald, they're playing an integral role up forward for Sydney this year. Obviously, Weeders will probably take McDonald, but I don't know. Amadi and McLean sort of pinch hits in the ruck, so TDK is going to have his work cut out for him getting up and down the ground. But Amadi can pop up and kick 3 or 4 as well, boys, on his day.
Do you think, I don't know if I'm too early on inclusions, but do you think there's a chance of having another tall defender for the Swans?
Yep.
I just think
Potentially.
there's a chance.
Yep.
Potentially.
I think Marchbank got through the VFL unscathed, so he could come in very easily, considering how tall they are. But who do you drop? That's the thing. Is it Cowan? And then do you have enough run out of the back half if you drop Cowan and bring in a tall? I don't know. It's a very different profile than what we've had the last few weeks.
Yeah. Do with McGovern.
Yeah. I mean, Gov can
McGovern's
provide
got
run.
run.
Yeah, he can. But then, and then that's right. Then you've got Weeders, Kemp, Marchie that can match up on the 3 tall. So, yeah, it's probably not a bad shout, Jules. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull the trigger there. The other two, obviously, are Chera and Pitto that we need to give consideration to. So, Pitto hopefully gets up. It sounds like
gone.
Yeah, it sounds like Pitto is going to be a test and he should be okay, but it doesn't sound like Ches is going to be available for a couple of weeks again, at least. So, who are you bringing in that midfield?
I don't know, it's hard because there's a few tests.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Hewitt's
Cunners-
obviously going to come in.
Yep. Yes, he played a sub. So, yeah, Hewitt you'd expect to take that starting role, but you've then got a choice of Cunners or Carroll, really, is what I look at.
Probably Cunners.
Had a decent game of the VFL. Carroll racked it up, as did Jackson Binns, by the way. He had 42.
I think Carroll had, 20-something, but yeah, I think Binns has sort of had a game, to be honest. I think
I just don't want to see Binns as a sub again. Like, if he's ready,
I don't want to see it either, but yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't reward him off a 42 disposal performance and go, here's the sub vest. You know what I mean? It feels feels a bit shit. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I think regardless of what our lineup looks like I said, we match up well against them. I'm pretty confident in this one. I don't know why. I'm confident that off an 8-day break as well, so they can get some rest into their legs. Hopefully a few niggles that they were carrying throughout that 12-day stretch in terms of general soreness or whatever they had can sort of dissipate. And I reckon we're going to give it a red-hot crack, boys. I really do. Thoughts? Margin? Predictions?
Blues by 15.
I reckon Walsh has 34, kicks 2, lays 6 tackles, and win the game by 19.
I don't think we've ever had someone predict an individual player's performance like down to stat count.
Oh no!
But if it happens, Jules, I'll clip this and put it on Instagram.
You said state your opinion, and I stated my opinion, man.
I like it. Not bad. Blues by I'll say Blues by 12. I reckon it's gonna be pretty close. Yeah, we're about to wrap up, Gav. I can see Jules nodding off, so we're almost done.
Never get my cup of tea.
I actually haven't got my not happy Dan for tonight.
We're still hitting it.
I need to
Keep calm. Count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10.
Not happy, Dan!
Hard one for me. It might have been today. So rocked up to the lesson.
The golf lesson.
Yep. Started at 3. And you know when it's a weird week when I don't have a not happy Dan. But lesson started 3. I'm waiting there. I got there. I think I got there maybe 5-10 minutes early. It's fine. He goes, "Oh mate, go warm up on the other." He goes, "Get the balls and go warm up on the mat." Yeah, Joe, you know how you got that little area. Anyway, he was still training this guy. I'm waiting there. 5 minutes to 3. Thought, oh yeah, it's gonna wrap up soon. did a few stretches, this, that, whatever. 3 o'clock, the guy goes, oh, do you need to go to the lesson now? Because he could see me waiting there because I'd already introduced myself. And he goes, yeah, he's just waiting. I need to go. And he goes, oh, can I ask you one more question?
Time's up.
What?
Time's up, buddy. Move on.
Time's up. He goes, oh, no. One more hit.
Mm.
And I'm standing there and I'm like, not one. And I'm looking at him because he's a taller bloke and Andrew's a bit shorter. And I'm looking at the guy like this. I'm literally staring at him. Guy has another hit. Then they're on the side. I started at 3:10, the lesson.
Yeah. What time did you finish, though?
Huh?
What time did you finish, though?
4:30.
Yeah, well, there you go. You got an extra 20 minutes in. Shit. I've got one because this has turned into a not happy boys segment, even though it sort of started with Dan. Emirates, get fucked. Lost my luggage. Yep.
Oh, no way.
Not good enough. Yeah, I was without my luggage for 2 days. Got it now, which is fine. 2 days wasn't too bad. Good turnaround, but fuck me, mate. How do you lose? It baffles me how airlines lose luggage. It really does.
What'd you wear? Gab's dresses for 2 days?
No, I actually I did wear one of her t-shirts to gym. Yes, I had to wear one of her tees. But seriously, that's just not on. I don't understand how luggage gets lost. It shits me to tears. But anyway, it's all. Oh, and here's the other one. They didn't even give me like a time that they were going to drop it off. So I'm like, well, so like if I wasn't here, then they had to try again. But they weren't scheduling anything in. So I get a call after a decent night on Saturday, just quietly. Got home pretty late. They call me at 7:30 in the morning on Sunday when I'm about an hour into my sleep, hour and a half into my sleep. Not good enough. Just not. So,
to be fair, it's not that
Did
bad.
they offer you a voucher or not?
Nothing. Zero. Couldn't claim anything. So, piss off.
I think it says more about you than the actual Emirates, Joe.
The fact that you're only an hour into your sleep is the concerning part.
Well, you say concerning, I say very good night. So, anyway. That's it. I got a big week coming up, boys. Yeah. Tuesday night, Tottenham City. That's the one. First time in my life that will be, and Jules as well, if you're actually going to watch it, Jules, this week. I don't know if you will, probably not. But, do you like that one, Dad? Little dig.
Like he watches every single game.
I do. Dan.
To be fair, he does. This year, I go to him, Jules. I go, but you can probably only reel off the last 3 years of Arsenal. He's not going back.
A massive bandwagoner, honestly.
I'm not.
Yeah,
because I tell him,
Jules.
As soon as Carlton started getting good, he's like, "Oh, let's start a podcast," because now he's coming to the footy games.
That's fucking rubbish. We started.
Reel off some players from 15 years ago. Joe can't answer it.
You forget. That's all right. You forget when we started this podcast, we were in the depths of fucking hell. But that's all right. That's fine. I'm the bandwagoner. I've been there since day fucking one. 15 years ago.
15
years ago. Silvestre.
Roberto Silva. Do you know these players, Joe?
Yeah, of course I do. Remember Silvestre, Jules? Remember him?
Miko.
Huh?
I know them by their first names, Joe. That's the difference between me and you.
Fuck off. I bet you couldn't name. Yeah, you probably know the ones from 15 years ago. You couldn't name our fucking left back today. That's all.
Fuck out of here.
See?
What are you talking about?
Who started left back, Jules?
He's searching it.
Jules?
Huh?
It's gone.
What do you mean?
Jules.
Who was it?
Huh?
Who started left back?
What'd you say?
Jules? He's searching.
Let me ask you, bloke. Relax.
He Googled it.
He Googled.
I'm checking my water, bloke.
He Googled it. Oh shit. No, that's funny. That's very good. All right, boys. Let's wrap it up. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next week. That were baggers.
Ciao.
Hi, baggers.
Hey, boys.